Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Coming at you live. I've got a live studio audience today. Not really. I have like 4 people in the room. It's just time to do the video. And we've been working on some of this nonprofit stuff, working on getting everything fired up. As always, guys, I must request that you hit the share button for it is inappropriate and rude and ridiculous that you would watch me and not hit the share button just because I asked you to. Okay, so please, guys, hit the share button. The legislative session is over. We'll be diving into some good, some bad, some ugly, of course. It's a bittersweet ending, right? There's always a lot of things you perhaps wish we were able to accomplish that we didn't get done. But at the same time, there's a big part of me that's glad it's over because, well, quite frankly, it seems like they just really, really wanted to hurt us this session. They really wanted to hurt us this session. But we'll start diving into what the legislative session did. Let's start off with some of the good. Once again, guys, please share. Also, you can check us out, brewedco.com, brewedco.com. Also, of course, you can come by the coffee shop in Lexington and come get a cup of coffee. A lot of people like it. People like the coffee. I like coffee. A lot of people like it. You guys like coffee? Yeah, see? Those 4 people like the coffee that's around me. I hope so. I pay them in coffee. Anyway, so, end of the legislative session. We've got, I'm live over here, guys. Sorry, my audience is a little unruly. End of the legislative session, the good stuff. So we have HB 563, School Choice Light, that ended up getting passed. Once again, that allows for the donation to private nonprofits to provide scholarships for individuals to go to private school, means tested. That's a good bill, regardless how you look at it. It is not public tax dollars going to private schools because this money is clearly donated. There's literally no arguments you can make against it other than to say you hate underprivileged children. That's all I could think of. We had HB 91. What HB 91 is a constitutional amendment to say in the state of Kentucky, you have no right to an abortion by our state constitution. The right to an abortion is not guaranteed in our state constitution. We did stop the gas tax. So what's funny is earlier today, Kim King, who of course is on that list of people who didn't do impeachment. Kim King had posted on her Facebook. She said, all these people taking credit for things, stopping things that were never going to happen in the first place. And we feel like she was alluding to us. I think it was because on my private Facebook page, I had made fun of her for matching her mask to her outfit every day and saying, hey, if you're going to be a sheep, you might as well look good while doing it. And I think she was attacking me personally about that and some others. But she'd said, taking credit for stopping things that were never going to happen is crazy. Here's the bottom line, okay? The gas tax bill was HB 561 for those keeping track at home. And HB 561 had, let's see here, first, it was proposed. So you can't say it completely stopped nothing from happening if it was A, proposed. And B, also had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 co-sponsors on this bill. 14% of the House had sponsored this bill alone. Do not tell me it was all made up in our minds it was going to move forward and the gas tax was never going to happen when we have 14 sponsors on the darn bill. If we were not paying attention, that bill would have moved forward. So Kim King, take that, take it somewhere else. You can't fool us. The bill was filed. The very fact the bill is filed is worth bringing up and saying, hey, we need to stop that from happening. But also, 14 co-sponsors on a bill. You don't see that often. You don't see a bill have 14 co-sponsors that ends up dying. It just doesn't happen. Normally, those are the ones that sail on through. So yes, guys, give yourselves a pat on the back. Our constant watching of these legislators, our constant keeping them accountable, stop them from rising our gas taxes 40% in July. That is real things really done, and it's because of you guys staying engaged. Felicia stepped up there on the floor. Felicia Raybourne, one of the few really good reps. I personally enjoy watching her votes. Stood up, went on the record saying, hey, we need to impeach this governor. He is throwing legislative immunity even out the window. We need to impeach him. Quick reminder, guys, hit the share button. Anyways, we need to impeach him. She did say that. That's pretty good victory there. It's not much. It doesn't really. Obviously, he's not impeached, but it's positivity. SB 8, no mandatory vaccines. A lot of confusion here. A lot of people confused. They say, well, mandatory vaccines weren't allowed anyways. They were, as long as they were approved by the FDA. The current COVID-19 vaccines are approved under emergency use authorization. That's why they can't be mandated. However, if they passed FDA approval and had passed that and were said okay, the governor, under a state of emergency, could have mandated that vaccine. But SB 8 allows you, as long as you are a conscientious objector, to not get the vaccine. So there you go. Of course, we also had HB1 and SB1 and SB2 that were pretty good passages. Of course, they haven't taken effect. Same with JR 77. In fact, all of them that were reigning in the governor's power, I mean, they passed them, but they don't really take effect. And, of course, not to get a little biblical on you guys, but you can always tell a tree by the fruit that it bears. So passing things without following that up by ensuring they get enacted, you might as well not even have passed anything at all, in my humblest of opinions. However, they did get HB1, SB1, and SB2, House Joint Resolution 77. All those should end the mandates in a normal time. Of course, we have Judge Shepard's shenanigans. We'll talk about that in a second, as well as some other things. And we did do some work on HB1 to stop it from being terrible. Originally how it was wrote, until we were able to kind of get a hold of it, rewrite some amendments on it. It was going to put the federal CDC in charge of the restaurant and dining and COVID response guidelines for the state of Kentucky. And so we were able to get a hold of that, make it to where you just need to have an HB1 plan that is posted on your website and on your door. SB1 in its original drafting would have given the, like CPS, the ability to take the children from you if you were not following COVID issues. And so that as well, we were able to get adjusted from being terrible as well. So that's good. Those are some good things that happened. Here's the bad. They failed to pass HB 360. Now, what that was a bill that would allow restaurants, child care facilities, anywhere that gets licensed by the government, and it would say you cannot take these businesses' licenses away if they are not following the COVID mandates. You want to take them away, you cannot do that. Why this was so incredibly important for them to pass was if they really wanted to see HB1, SB1, and SB2 go to the mat, they could have wreaked all havoc and passed HB 360, because it said nothing about his ability to make mandates. It simply said what the ramifications would be to do so. And if you had a bunch of businesses out there knowing they could follow HB1, SB1, and SB2, and the judge and the governor would have to come and get them on it, and they weren't going to lose their licenses over it, you would see mass civil disobedience, I believe, in a lot of these areas, because they wouldn't worry about what's going to happen to them. And so that's really important with HB 360. Could have caused quite a step back there. Of course, another bad, Judge Shepard is not impeached, not that we really expected him to be. Right now, we do have a petition circulating. If you want to sign that, it's on our Facebook page to ask the judge to be disbarred. Is anything going to really happen with that? I don't know. But who knows what 100,000 signatures, just symbolic, just to have 100,000, 200,000 signatures show up at the Kentucky Bar Association to say we want this guy disbarred speaks volumes that we disagree with what's going on. And remember, if we're not communicating what we want from our government, we can't be upset when they don't give it to us. So we need to be communicating to them as well. And, obviously they're not really fighting very hard to implement anything. Passage of HB 360 would have been giving a big tool in the tool belt for us to get SB1, HB1, SB2, HJR 77 passed. Anyways, to get it passed as far as that goes. And, they're really not getting that in place. You also had HB 208 get put forward as well. That was a pretty bad bill. That was the school bill that we are fighting so adamantly against, that allows the school districts to not be 5 days a week. They only need to be 2 days a week. It even allows hundreds of students and teachers at a time to have to be out of class and quarantined as well. And so that was a bad bill that didn't require kids to be back in school. And that one passed. And we'll see how that one plays out into this next year. Because, of course, we're all hearing the rumblings. And we're all hearing the rumblings about variants and how they're undetectable. As a reminder, guys, hit the share button. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the share button. Thank you for hitting the share button. Thank you. Anyway, so as a reminder, guys, you know, we're seeing these variants coming out. We're seeing the Fauci standing up there and saying, well, you know, it could be undetectable. So the virus is asymptomatic and undetectable. It's almost like it doesn't even exist. But anyway, so we're seeing all these things. It's a very real possibility. And you know, if you asked me 3-4 months ago with how everything was going with the vaccinations and everything else, I'd say, hey, this is going to be over. I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure this will be over here in the next several months. It won't be a big deal. That is not what appears to be going on at all. It appears they want to keep this thing alive for as much as possible. Because apparently we live in a new day and age where if one person is dying from a sickness, that must mean we all need to pause and stop our lives, because nobody in the history of the entire world has ever died from a disease, from a virus before. This is a new thing, and it requires us to burn down our economy, inflate our currency, and destroy people's livelihoods because we need to feel safe. It also, we had a bill passing that made it illegal to release identifying politicians' information of crime. You know, that's really up in the air. I mean, what's that mean, right? So, like, for an example, the other day, and we'll talk about this in the ugly, Koenig decided, Adam there, he decided to release a nice little amendment. We responded by saying, hey, he's a jerk. You should ask him why he did it. And then, you know, on his public Facebook page, he had his cell phone number posted. You just clicked it and you saw his phone number. And then I searched it to make sure it wasn't like his office number. And it showed up to be his cell phone number on his realtor website. So I was like, well, you know, he's throwing it out there as far as it goes. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to post that out there. And, you know, the phone number is 859-653-5312. Do with that information what you will. But, and once again for you guys, that is 859-653-5312. Now, according to this law, what I just did there may have been a misdemeanor. I don't know. He has that publicly posted on his site as his cell phone number on his campaign page. But what they passed last night says if I publish that information, that could be a misdemeanor. Now, obviously, I just said what I said, and I'm clearly, if anybody knows, I'm willing to engage in some civil disobedience. And I'd find it hard for you to take me to jail for doing that when he has it publicly posted, right? Is it illegal for me to open up the phone book and find a legislator's number that they have listed in the phone book and post it? This bill, I think, would make that illegal, considering that the phone companies asked to ensure, and the phone book companies, I didn't even know those still existed, the phone book companies wanted to ensure that they would not be in trouble for publishing phone numbers in a phone book. They had to get a special exemption in the bill for it. So the question becomes, did I just commit a misdemeanor? I don't think I did, because he has that publicly information available. I didn't publish it. He published it. I'm just reading to you what he already published himself. But hey, who knows? I could be arrested tomorrow for that misdemeanor that I did not do. I want to make that clear. I did not knowingly commit a crime. All right, so moving on, though, and we'll get to more about old Koenig there. Old Adam there, but also as well, we had HB 312, which makes you unable to get a open records request on a legislator. That was put forward by Massey. Now I wish I'd put in a lot more open records requests on Massey, because that man must be hiding something. and now I want to know what it is. I'm so interested to know what is going on in Massey's emails that he needs to hide it. So, yeah, that I guess it becomes near impossible to get a legislator's opens records request forward because, well, they want to hide those things from you guys. So that's the good, that's the bad. Going into the ugly, and please, once again, hit the share button. I'm reminding you every 5 minutes because I'm an annoying jerk who's only about self-publishing and just trying to get my name out there because that's all I care about. I don't care about liberty at all. I'm a grifter if you asked any of these people out here because, you know, grifters typically have no understanding of the ideas like I do. They just say things, right? Anyways, so here's the ugly. One of the ugliest things I saw last night was when Adam Koenig, Adam Koenig, sorry, that was a little slip there, my bad, put forward on SB 159, which was a reorganization bill for the Department of Military Affairs. Now, that was a bill put forward by Adrian Southworth. On that bill, put forward by Adrian Southworth, on that bill for Adrian Southworth, Koenig's mad at her. Why is he mad at her? Well, he's mad at her because he put forward this constable bill that was weird and preposterous. In fact, his supporting evidence was the fact that a constable assaulted his wife for not doing the dishes. And so that means we need to take away the arresting powers of constables because they're not trained, which is really weird considering, like, sheriffs are also not trained. So I don't know why suddenly sheriffs can have their arresting powers because, of course, they're constitutionally protected here in Kentucky, but constables don't. My question for Adam Koenig is, what constable arrested you that has you so upset? Which constable's pissing you off, sir? I'm really curious to know. But of course, so he targeted Adrian's bill and tacked on this random amendment just to attack us because he doesn't like us. And the reason why he tacked on this amendment, how he did it was there was like half the House was out of the room. He put forward an amendment. Nobody knows what they're voting on. He sits down, he calls a vote, and it passes. What the amendment said? Well, the amendment made it specifically to where, so right now we are suing the governor and LRC, the House, for taxing the impeachment cost on us. He was specifically tried to make it a law that normally when you sue the government, and if you lose, you don't have to get taxed the cost of the government's costs in that case because we have a right to petition our government for redress. So when you believe the government is taking action against you that's improper, incorrect, and unconstitutional, you have a right to challenge that in court. That's why we pay taxes to the courts. That's why they exist, right? So the government doesn't get to tax you for that. Well, Koenig decided he wanted to go ahead and try to tax us for that. So he tried to tack on an amendment to make it law and slip it on by everybody that would make it to where ourselves, for filing against and challenging them for the impeachment, if we lost, would also have to now pay the legislators' costs in that case as well. Basically trying to make it to where it's near illegal to near illegal to challenge the legislator. So not only under this presumption would you be taxed with the cost of asking for impeachment, but also as well you'd have to pay for the lawyer. And quite frankly, that's quite ridiculous. It would have been knocked down as unconstitutional as well, I'm sure, clearly. But he did it on Adrian's bill to get back at Adrian over the constable bill, and then also to get back at us because, well, that's what he does. And so that was really ugly. What ended up happening? Well, what happens is when the House tacks on an amendment to a bill, it has to get sent forward to the Senate for what's called concurrence. So the Senate has to agree with the bill for concurrence. The bill never came up for concurrence before the session was over. I've heard a lot of reasons as to why. It sounded like he had poisoned the bill to the point that Adrian did, as the original sponsor of the bill, could decide whether or not it got heard on the Senate floor. I'm being told no. But they just didn't. Oh, that's not what happened. Okay. They just didn't move it forward to the floor. I'm sorry. They just didn't move it forward in the floor in time. as indicated by somebody on the inside that perhaps she had decided not to just hear it because he had poisoned the bill to the point. But essentially, they didn't move forward. They didn't get to it. And so it didn't become law. But he poisoned her bill just to get back at her, just to get back at us. And Adam, I have your number. And let me tell you what that number is one more time. For anybody listening that wants to ask Adam why his buddy Bashir, who, by the way, he just broke ground with, but anybody wants to ask Adam, give him a call and say, Adam, why do you love the governor, and why don't you want to see him impeached, and why do you want to tax the impeachment petitioners for asking their government for redress? You can give him a call at 859-653-5312. Once again, that's 859-653-5312. You didn't get that information from me if anybody asks, okay? He published that himself. Anyways, you just went to his Facebook page. Anyway, so, also, obviously ugly, the impeachment fiasco, right? He gets impeached. We file for the citizens' impeachment. And what's disheartening about the impeachment fiasco is twofold. One, they did not complete a full and complete investigation. What I mean by that is if they had investigated whether or not the governor had knowingly and on purpose broke the First Amendment with cause. So basically, he premeditated breaking the First Amendment when he banned you from going to church. That's far different than acting in good faith. But they never did that. And then they also followed that up by saying, yes, the impeachment committee admitted that he did break the Constitution. They just believe that he shouldn't be impeached for it. Because, prior Kentucky governors also broke the Constitution. Because, they think that when Governor Bevin and then AG Bashir were having a disagreement on something that ended up in courts, that's the same as you getting arrested. Not arrested. You being put under a 2-week, 3-week house arrest for going to church on Easter, which is coming up. And so, of course, that fiasco. Now, we are suing them for our right for redress, for them to not be able to tax us those costs. We're pretty sure we'll win. The judge has them on the record saying they will not go after us for the cost until the litigation is over. But obviously, you can donate to that. Donate.brewco.com, BREWCO.com. If you'd like to, you don't have to. But yeah, it's quite the fiasco going on there. It was very ugly what's going on with impeachment. And here's the thing, too. If they hadn't failed on impeachment and they sit there and they complain about HB1, SB1, House Joint Resolution 77, when they say, oh, man, look at us, we passed this, but the judicial system won't let us do it. It just doesn't ring true. And it doesn't ring true because you had the opportunity to impeach the governor. You have the ability and the opportunity to impeach Judge Shepard. If you think what they're doing is unconstitutional and wrong, you had the ability to impeach them. You chose not to. So do not sit there and complain to me while you can be easily held liable for that because you didn't fulfill all your duties. If you really want to see those things enforced, you could have impeached them. You didn't. Your words are hollow and they don't ring true, which is why some of you guys are confused because normally the GOP would all be fawning over you. Look at us. Look at all we did. They give us thank yous. But when you go over to this Republican Party of Kentucky's page, you see nothing but hate on every single one of their posts because you guys know. You guys have been paying attention this session. They're not used to you guys paying attention because before you didn't know the government could affect you so much. And with you guys paying attention, they can't lie to you and tell you, look at how good we did. You're saying, no, you had the ability to impeach. You had the ability to remove Judge Shepard. You didn't do it. You are held accountable for what you're doing. As you guys know, on April 17th, we will be having an event at Brood. Make sure to purchase your tickets. It's on Eventbrite, Liberty Luncheon. Very important thing to go to if you want to know what we're doing as far as that goes. If you want to know what we are doing, how to get involved, how are we going to change things? How are we going to get the needle moved towards liberty in Kentucky? And how can you be a part of that? You come on out April 17th. Tickets are $10. You can buy those tickets also at kyliberty.org/luncheon. That is kyliberty.org/luncheon. luncheon. Now, let's talk nationally for a second here because, well, vaccine passports have been talked about. And the only reason why vaccine passports are an option in this country, is something we're talking about, is because we have this weird quasi-free crony capitalism market. And in this market, I love it how, too, people sit there and say, oh, but they're a private business, right? So if the airlines want to require a vaccine passport, or Ticketmaster wants to require a vaccine passport, or any of these businesses, a Walmart even, or anything, wants to require a vaccine passport, they're a private business. What's funny is most of the people saying, well, they're a private business, has no problem telling that business they have to wear a mask, they have to do this, they have to do that, when it works for their viewpoint. They have no problem saying, you can't have this much capacity, you got to wear a mask, you can't even have people eating inside your restaurant. Then it's not your private company, no. No, then it's for the common good. The government can tell you what to do. But the minute they're doing something they like, they're like, oh, no, it's a private company, guys. Isn't that what you think? You think private companies can do it? No, they're not private companies. They're not. Why aren't they? Let's take airlines. We posted about this earlier. All but one airport in the entire country is owned by a government entity. If the government comes to you, and you rely, and also too, let's not forget, they bail out the airlines on a regular basis. So you have an entity that, one, you rely on to operate, that, two, has told you, if you fail, we will save you, that then comes to you and says, man, can you help us out with this vaccine situation? And they say, hey, yeah, sure, I got you covered. And they start requiring a vaccine. Your incentive is to listen to the government, not the customer. Because the government has already shown they will scoop you up if you fall. There's no free market push for you to provide a service because you're not worried about losing money and going out of business. The government's got you. Take Ticketmaster. Most of these event venues, such as in Lexington, Rupp Arena is owned by the city of Lexington. It's owned by the city. In fact, part of our Cole severance money paid for the scoreboard hanging in Rupp Arena. So if you're Ticketmaster, and the only place you can hold concerts at for somebody like Garth Brooks that's inside in the city is at a government-owned facility, you do whatever the government, wink, wink, nods, nods, you have you to do. There's an issue going on here in Lexington. Some of you may be aware of it. Many of you probably aren't. I'm aware of 2 or 3 lawsuits currently forming on this issue. That St. Joseph St. Joseph Hospital, as well as Baptists, as well as UK, have been instructed by administrators to not give out mask exemptions to people who qualify. There are people who have a mask exemption from a hospital in Richmond, Kentucky, that has it documented what happens when they wear a mask, has a real medical exemption from another hospital that can't get treated at a hospital and their doctor's offices in Lexington because they're told we can't treat you unless you wear a mask. They ask for a mask exemption that they already qualify for at other hospitals, and they're told, no, we're not allowed to give you one. I know of veterans that somehow managed to get a mask exemption before they started saying you can't have them, that even with that mask exemption cannot get the VA to treat them. But they're private companies, right? Well, no, they're not. Not in healthcare. It's so heavily regulated that when the government asks you to do something, you don't have to make a law. They don't need to. You rely on them so much. When 20, 30% of your customers are Medicare, Medicaid customers, government-run health insurance, you do whatever the government asks you to do. It makes it easy on your lobbyists when they're up there. If you don't, hey, all right, you pass this regulation to pay me a little bit more money on Medicare, Medicaid, I'll go ahead and not hand out mask exemptions. Right? They don't have to create a law when we have this crazy crazy, corrupt system where we have asked government to regulate everything. We were joking about it the other day. I was talking about this on the podcast several weeks ago about the Sturdy Act. An act to regulate furniture companies because 6 kids a year are dying from furniture falling on them. We don't know how to live without turning to the government to regulate everything. And in turn, by us looking at the government as a problem solver, not the problem, we've made it so much worse to where they don't need to pass a law. They don't need to. These aren't private companies. Their profits are privatized, but their losses are socialized. The government's there to pick them back up. They're not in business alone. They're in business with the government. Their incentives. See, the whole way the free market works is through profit incentives, right? So if you rewind to Jim Crow laws, the reason why Jim Crow laws even had to be put in place is because businesses were deintegrating on their own. Because they realized, holy cow, I could attract 30% of my customer base of African Americans into my business if I desegregate. And you know what? Their skin may be a different color, but their money's all the same. It all comes out green. It's worth it to me to do that. That's why people ran to the government to ask them to put in Jim Crow laws. Because the free market was already desegregating. Because the free market provides incentives for you to behave in a way to maximize your profits. But when the free market's taken away and you have the government subsidizing everything, your incentive is now to do whatever the government asks you to do. When you're social media and you're protected by Section 230, and you're worried about losing that protection, because if you lose that protection from lawsuits, you're out of business. You do whatever the government asks you to do. That's the problem. We've let our government get so big and so looming and so dangerous, they don't even got to pass a law. In the article first came out about this vaccine passport situation, they stated Joe Biden's administration is working with private companies to create policies about how to do vaccine passports. Why is Joe Biden's administration reaching out about anything? Why are they? Well, it's quite frankly, it's because they can. Oh, Joe Biden asked us to do it. He's there for us when we need that regulation done. You know, whenever we need, EpiPens regulated and mandated to be in every school. If we go ahead and do this for them, they'll take care of that. And then they wonder why we don't trust the government. They're not even honest to you. They're not even honest to you. They're not even being honest about the risks of everything. Just be honest about the risks. They're not honest and tell you, according to the CDC, there's only been 3-4 deaths under 30 in the entire state of Kentucky from COVID. Let me ask you, everybody under 30. Would you take a vaccine that has killed more than 3 or 4 people under 30 in the entire state? Would you take a vaccine that may or may not make you infertile? If you know you're only 3-4 people in your age group in the entire state of Kentucky have died from this? No, most of you wouldn't. That's why they don't tell you that. How many of us would be taking the vaccine if the CDC came out and said what they, Thomas Massey has recorded, where they're saying, hey, if you've had COVID and you're immune to it, you really don't need to have a vaccine. In fact, already they were talking about how maybe you only need 1 shot if you've been, they're coming out publicly saying maybe you only need 1 shot if you've been immune, if you've had it before. And Fauci's already like, no, we're not going to change up our doses. No, they don't need to. Meanwhile, you've got issues like blood clots forming with the AstraZeneca vaccination. They all told us, it's safe, guys. It's safe. And then all of a sudden, 3-4 months later, don't take it. It's causing blood clots in the brain. Just be honest. Just be honest about what's going on, and let us make a decision. It's hard to trust a man like Fauci when he's already come out and admitted to you he's lied to you 3 times. He's either lying now about masks and they don't work, or he already came out and said that he was lying when he told you not to wear masks because he didn't want you to make a rush on the stores buying masks up when they are needed for healthcare workers. He admits he moves the goalpost on when we get to herd immunity and keeps moving it up in order to manipulate us. He says these things out loud to mainstream media. And then they wonder why we don't take they wonder why we don't trust them. Listen, I look at the numbers. Yeah, I'm a big guy. But you know what? I look at the numbers, I look at my general health, and I say, COVID's not really a risk to me. It's of no more risk to me than the flu is. And quite frankly, if I want to take that risk, if I want to make that private decision, I should have every right to do so. And we shouldn't be using quasi-government mixed with business. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine because I regulate the crap out of you. In order to accomplish things we want to get accomplished. You have Delta Airlines setting up vaccine stations. If you've got Krispy Kreme donuts offering you a donut a day to get vaccinated. We joke about it. I'm half tempted to offer an Oreo to everyone who doesn't get vaccinated, just to be a jerk about it. I like Oreos more anyways. Clearly. I'm not going to because I don't actually want to incentivize you to not get vaccinated because, quite frankly, I don't care what you do. You know why? Because I don't ask anything of anybody else. I don't rely on anybody else for my existence. I don't want to. That's not the American dream. The American dream is not let everybody carry me. The American dream is I did it myself. I made it my way. I needed nothing from nobody. I don't know. I guess you'd call me crazy because I believe in traditional conservative values. You call me crazy because I believe in liberty to the point that you don't get to ask things of other people. You don't get to ask them to put things in their body they don't want to put in them. But hey, I could just be crazy. Who knows? I thank you guys for listening. Please feel free to share it out. It's always a podcast. It's always a podcast. Available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Check it out, guys. Please share it out. Thank you guys so much.